This video is going to show you Solar Master Nightfall getting platinum rank on the arms dealer on a Solar Blade Barrage Hunter. This is the last run for this for Masters for this week, as we're going to get GMs in a couple of days. Not, you know, they're not far away. So this is going to be the last proper Master video that I do this season, unless there's like a really good week to farm double loot, like not just on the GM but maybe on Master. But I will mainly just focus on GM when they're coming out. I'm itching to sort of do some GMs as well, to be honest. So I've done all, obviously, Titan Warlock this week. It's a slow week, to be honest, but I thought I may as well just do the Hunter as well, round it out so that all frees up, I guess, for the channel. But I was trying to also think of a unique setup to do and take advantage of these acute burns on Nightfalls. So I was thinking of the exotic heavy situation that we have. Obviously Galahorn's you go to, just because rockets, you know, are very good in endgame stuff. Heavy GL's not as much. Obviously Anarchy's not as good as it used to be, but it is still good. Legendary heavy GLs aren't very good. They're not used. You don't see them used on solos or team. You're either seeing people use linears, sometimes machine guns, which are getting more popular, and rockets, but people aren't using FGLs. But Parasite itself is very good. The problem with Parasite, and the reason why people don't use it as much as you'd think, is because it's a really high damage. Once you get the perk going, so it's the times 20 worms hunger. Once you get that going and you get the worms byproduct perk as well, you get a huge amount of damage off that first shot. It's one of the highest damage shots in the game, like single shot. I think it might be the highest, or it was when it launched. I assume that's still the case. Like on a one shot buy basis compared to other weapons. But you lose so much DPS over time. Damage over time goes steep down because you don't have that same damage on the second shot, the third shot, the fourth shot, etc. But there's a unique playstyle with this heavy exotic where you can give it auto-load and holster. So you put on the newish perks. They're quite new. They're not that new, but they don't get used that much because they're not really that effective. The auto-load and holster perks for like pulse rifles, scouts, I don't think there's one for glaives. I'm not sure if there is or not. But there's auto-load and holster on your boots for every gun in the game, but it's a trickle. But the thing is, the reason why it's good with Parasite is because Parasite's a one shot in the mag. So after every, I believe, 4 seconds, it will reload for you. Now, I could have probably went GL Scavenger for this. It would have probably helped me out a little bit better because I would have just got more ammo overall, meaning I could use it a bit more. The only thing with that, though, is you don't want to use it too much. You want to use it on key targets. And you want to sort of stack up your 20 as much as possible. It's hard in strikes like this where there's not a lot of adds. So you'll see me kill more adds than usual because I'm trying to get that buff up. It's also a bit of a pain. I actually missed. I don't know how that shot missed. I missed a couple of shots in this because I was a little tired recording at the sort of end of the night. But yeah, it's kind of a pain. If you do miss your shot, that's another downside to the weapon. If you miss your shot, you've just lost all your stacks and you've got to go again with it. But as you saw at the start, you can one-shot champs as long as you've got a high enough buff, and obviously you're close enough to level for master, then you can. And that'll be the same. It's true if you level for legend or whatever, but if you're under leveled for this difficulty, you won't be able to do so. We use an elemental well high energy fire hybrid build, as you saw at the start of the video. So it's high energy fire, Reap and Wellmaker. I understand Reap and Wellmaker it generates voids. It's a void based thing, but it doesn't matter. See, Reap and Wellmaker is also neutral. It can be used on any class because if you pair that with a bridging mod, that's what I sort of call them, the mods where you can create these hybrid builds, like elemental charge, so you get charge of light when you pick up an elemental well. It does not state what that well needs to match your subclass, nothing like that. You'll just get less stacks of charge of light when you do pick it up, so you get one as opposed to having two generally, like if you have a match, but it doesn't really matter. So Reap and Wellmaker is like a really good thing to be using still. even if you're on solar, is what I'm saying. Just because we're not using void or not as much doesn't mean to say that you can't use that mod. So that's what I chose to get my high energy fire, because I'm going to want to use that mainly when we get to the farm boss. So I can show you a bit of damage on the boss, see how well he sort of compared to like Galahorn. Bear in mind with Galley, it was the first solo I'd done. I believe it took me like 7 rockets and a super. I can't mind if that was on the Titan. I guess it was on the Titan. So like I used 7 rockets. That was with Charge of Light, and I had to use a super. Right? Whereas obviously Parasite's less. I mean, I had less. I think I used less ammo overall. It's actually the same. Sorry, it does hold 7, just like Galahorn. But you'll see anyways when we get to the boss, I guess. So I want to burst down the tank. That's the main thing. If I'm gonna want to control this room like I want, where we're sort of pushing the ads with the glaive to show that off a little bit, then you need to take down the first tank. If you're farming it, obviously you don't have to. You can run the lament setup and just steamroll the whole thing in like 10 minutes, 10-12 minutes. If you truly want to farm it, where you are doing, you know, 6-7 runs, whatever you're doing, then yeah, lament's going to be your go-to, providing that you have power. If you're not at power, champs do actually stomp you. These barriers can one stomp you if you're not at power. Even if you're in the 1580 range, they can. So you got to be careful with that. It just depends on what power level you are. I'm going to actually play it under here, because what I'm doing here is I'm making sure the barriers can't see me while still being able to push these ads, because generally these ads will be at the back of the map. You'll be using your pulse and it's all slow, right? Not that I haven't talked about the pulse much. I'm using the dungeon pulse with adaptive munitions on it. Now, what do I think about this pulse? Well, I think it's really good, because Bitter Spite basically gives you a reload perk for free. You'll be noticing I'm getting, you know, quite a decent reload. Although saying that, I've got on your mark on, so that's helping out. But Bitter Spite does proc quite a lot, so you can spec into other things with it. This roll wasn't the best. I've got well-rounded on it, which I'm not a huge fan of. It's a PvP perk anyways. But the adaptive munitions, you can see you can 2-burst, almost 1-burst shields, barrier shields. It's good on barriers, because adaptive munitions counts for barrier shields, of course, but it's not good on elemental shields. It is at power. Sure, you're going to have a good time this week, but when GMs come out, try using adaptive munitions on GM match game shields and come back to me and talk to me about it, because you'll see that it's poor. Try to just match your shields to the Nightfall of what you're doing. So you need to make sure you got arc, solar, void pulses. I do this all the time, right? Don't be adamant of I'm just going to run this pulse for all 6 GMs and that's it. I don't agree with that sort of thing. I mean, you can do what you want in the game. I'm just giving you a little bit of advice. That adaptive munitions isn't that good, especially if you solo and GMs with it. You're going to still be there for a long time taking down all the shields. So we used the super and the a shot from the Parasite to take out the tank. The tank is the priority on this. If I want to push these unstoppables like I am, then I need to melt that tank down. Now what I'm trying to do here is, see, I'm using the Revitalizing Blast. Now it procs on enemies surrounding. It does an area of effect damage. It's perfect on like 3 unstoppables that are pushing you like that. That explosion is doing the damage to all 3. Providing I get the stuns good. Also just showing off the glaive as well. See, what people don't realise with the glaives is it's a melee based weapon in your energy slot. It does the same job as a sword for adds. If we're looking at it as adds, like on red bars, the glaive does a good job as a heavy sword. It can even do good damage as well, warlock wise and stuff, in a well with the starfire. So that's how strong the glaives are. I think people aren't sort of grasping the idea of them still. And the shield can tank so much. The shield is so good now on glaives. When they first came out, it was a little iffy and stuff, but no, now the glaives are in a really good spot. And you'll see people using them on solo GMs, 100%. You have to be a little bit more careful because things can one stomp you that because you're on that difficulty. So that's the thing that you've got to be careful with. But you've got that ranged ability with the glaive, right? Which is still potent in GMs because I've actually used them. So this is the final room. I guess all this is just prep. I'm just really prepping for the final boss. Alright, so it's just a case of I'm going to take out the adds from here, then I'm going to step back down and bait the unstoppable. Interesting thing about this is if you don't kill the unstoppable right away and you fight the barriers, the unstoppable will actually disappear and then reappear where the barriers are. The unstoppable will get confused. I was doing a run before this and they just unstoppable teleported. That's a common theme that happens. When you push past where adds are meant to fight from, they sometimes teleport to where other adds are, basically. So I was just wanting to clear that unstoppable first, but I was also wanting to bait the unstoppable away from the barriers, because if you go too close, the barrier can actually blind you from back there. So you notice I was keen-eyed for not aggroing any of the barriers until I wanted to be aggroed by them, which is now. Why? Because then we can isolate two barriers away from each other. One is sitting on the bridge, doesn't know what's going on. This one is wanting to push me. Also, something that I've found out about Revitalizing Blast, a lot of people are saying it's buggy and stuff, it's not always proccing. It has an inner cooldown. Now, I don't know, I haven't done the exact test, but I've realised today that it seems to be based on your bullets. So what I mean is, between shield breaks, if you keep spamming a champion after you broke their shield, and you don't give your gun a rest on the barrier, you won't get back-to-back Revitalizing Blasts. It seems to be that if you just sort of prime them and then wait a few seconds, then do the shield break, you'll get the blast back-to-back. And then sort of reload. That's if you want the blast to do the main chunk of your damage. Like, right here, I'll definitely get a back-to-back Revitalizing Blast, because there's that sort of... So there's sort of like an inner cooldown with it. I know that because there was a mod that was very similar to this. I can't remember what the name of it was. It done the same thing, but it didn't stun champs properly. I don't know if anyone remembers. It's like, I would say it's 3 or 4 seasons old. It was this very similar thing to this. You stun champions was a big explosion, but it wasn't called Revitalizing Blast. I think it was another name. And that had an inner cooldown as well. So it's the same thing. So it doesn't always proc. Right? But as I said, if you're absolutely spamming a champ with your primary, you get the shield break, you keep shooting, you get a reload. Chances are you won't get the blast to proc on the next one, but it'll be every other shield break that you do. So I'm just going to push these adds because I want. I actually lost my my throw knife, which is kind of bad. I didn't want to do that because I want my throw knife for radiant. But that's fine. Generally, I one-shot these adds, but see, with this knife, with the knife trick, it's 3 knives. So if all 3 knives don't hit an add, it does less damage. And if you don't get the kill with your knife, you don't get it back. That's fine, though. We'll get it back in time for when we want it anyways, really. So I'm not doing any exploits with it because it's obvious. I'm not going to do any cheeses because I can't do damage from back where I was. Down below. I haven't got Galleon. I can't do that strat because I'm using Parasite. So I have to come up top and do preps. I have to prep where I'm going to stand, how I'm going to do damage. As I said, I was more curious myself to see how good damage it would do in this, as opposed to sort of doing effective runs. Not too fussy. It's arms deal, you know. It's the last week, Masters, really. So I wasn't, too fussed. So what I'm going to do now is just clear out 3 of the turrets. I'll leave 1 alive. I could have left more up for more radiant, but it doesn't matter so much, to be honest. I just want to leave 1 alive because that will start the timer, right? So once I decide that I'm ready for damage, then I'll use my throw knife on the turret, get the knife back. That's 12 seconds of radiant. Notice I'm charge of light as well, which is 20% damage bonus, which stacks with radiant, which means all that will stack with Parasite's perks. So it's times 20 Worm's Hunger. It's worm byproduct. all that stuff will be accounted for and solar acute burn. So I was just wanting to see, as I say, what sort of damage I would do. I'm ready for damage now, so I'm just waiting for my health regen. I don't want to dodge yet because I need a dodge coming up. So I'll do a throw knife. I'll scorch him with a nade. Then I'll do a parasite and then a reload, a dodge reload. I missed one of my shots, unfortunate. We're going to try and get a little closer to the boss so he stomps us, gives us more time. We'll use a super, and that's pretty much the boss over. That was a solo on it using Parasite. I hope you enjoy. Thank you.